True power does not shout, it whispers in silence. In a world of endless noise, silence is a storm. Ignoring with wisdom is the most radical act. Not blindness, but clarity sharper than any blade. Most defend illusions, mistaking ego for strength. The wise remain unmoved, like mountains in eternal silence. Imagine walking while stones fall, yet never touch you. Every provocation collapses, powerless against inner stillness. The louder the world screams, the deeper silence resounds. A lake unshaken reflects the eternal moon. An insult unaccepted returns to its source. Detachment is not coldness. It is freedom beyond illusion. The gift of anger never leaves the giver's hands. Every reaction drains the sacred fire of the soul. But silence guards energy like flame hidden in stone. Between stimulus and response lies infinite freedom. Mastery is not over others, but over yourself. When storms rise, the calm one becomes the sky. Ignoring is not weakness, it is inner sovereignty. Like a lotus, purity rises untouched from mud. The silent warrior wears serenity as unbreakable armor. This is the hidden art of wise silence. Don't leave yet. What comes after this will reveal the secret art of protecting your inner fire. Subscribe now, activate the bell, and press like. Stay until the end, because your silence deserves to be heard by your soul. Chapter 1: The Silent Revolution. The power of inaction and intentional silence. There is a force that does not strike, yet transforms. A strength that does not shout or demand, but instead reshapes reality through restraint. True power often hides not in what we do, but in what we choose not to do. Inaction, when born from clarity, is not weakness. It is the supreme mastery of energy. Within silence, the world begins to bend differently, as if every pause holds a hidden key. The provocative question: what if the real mastery of your life did not begin with louder words, but with the choice to remain still? What if power was not proven in arguments, but in the quiet restraint of silence? Imagine for a moment that the most radical strength is not found in constant defense, but in measured inaction. Could it be that the truest authority lies in those who need not respond at all, because their calm already governs the space around them? A world saturated with opinions and noise. We live surrounded by relentless opinions, endless demands, and a storm of voices competing for attention. Every screen flashes with distractions. Every conversation insists on being heard. In this suffocating flood of noise, the rarest act is to ignore, to turn away from the chaos and keep your inner ground intact. Ignoring, chosen with intention, becomes a silent rebellion. It is a refusal to be consumed, a quiet shield against the world's constant pull. Ignoring with wisdom as empowerment, but to ignore wisely is not to abandon or withdraw in coldness. It is the deliberate art of choosing what deserves our energy and what does not. Ignoring with wisdom becomes empowerment, because it is a declaration of value. My peace matters more than this noise. It is the discipline of guarding your temple from invasion, refusing to scatter your essence. In silence, the soul sharpens like a blade, protecting what is sacred within. Most chase control, answers and defense. Most people believe power is proved by domination, quick answers, or endless defense. They argue, debate, and shout in search of validation, hoping to affirm their fragile identity. Yet the more they react, the more they lose themselves. The one who always responds is enslaved by the outside world, but the one who chooses silence, who does not bow to provocation, becomes master of a realm no one else can reach, the inner kingdom of peace. The wisdom of ancient masters in the East. Ancient teachers saw life through another lens. For them, victory was never about conquering another, but about conquering oneself. Buddhism taught that the truest triumph is the quiet stillness of mind, the refusal to let external storms decide your state. While the world screamed for attention, these masters withdrew into silence. They discovered that in the absence of reaction, freedom was not a dream. It was the foundation of existence. Freedom through non-reaction. The moment you choose not to react, a chain is broken. The insult returns to the sender, the provocation dissolves into emptiness. Freedom is born in the instant you realize that you no longer need others to confirm your worth. When you do not react, you stand unshaken beyond reach. Praise cannot bind you, insults cannot wound you. In silence, you find sovereignty, and in sovereignty, you find the power to remain untouchable. The mountain path metaphor, picture yourself walking along a narrow mountain path. At every step, someone hurls stones toward you, hoping you will stop, turn and fight back. But you do not stop. You continue, steady and serene, while each stone falls harmlessly to the ground. And as the stones lose their power to touch you, you begin to discover something greater. That true strength is not in striking back, but in walking forward untouched. This is freedom. Sages seek cultivation, not conquest. This is how the sages lived. They did not hunger for arguments won, nor cared for the applause of the crowd. Their pursuit was not victory over others, but cultivation of their own spirit. Their strength was measured by storms endured, not by enemies defeated. When the world demanded confrontation, they responded with stillness. They knew that in silence lies the seed of mastery, and in mastery lies the path to serenity. Defining the art of ignoring with wisdom. This is the essence of the art of ignoring with wisdom. It is not disdain, nor the arrogance of indifference. It is discernment, the rare ability to separate what builds you from what only drains you. To ignore wisely is to honor your time and your energy, to release the weight of distractions. It is the inner decision to invest only in what matters. It is a refusal to fight battles that have no crown. Silence, as the act of not engaging silence, then, is not emptiness but presence. It is the strength of restraint, the courage to walk past 1,000 provocations without yielding. It is the choice to not be dragged into every fire, to not waste your soul on battles that cannot be won. Silence is a shield, invisible yet unbreakable, forged by the refusal to waste yourself. It is not the absence of a voice, it is the voice of true control. The goal, unshakable inner peace. The goal of this revolution is not conquest of lands or people, but unshakable peace. A peace so steady that storms may roar, insults may fall, chaos may surround you, and yet your center remains calm. To reach this stillness is to achieve mastery itself, not the mastery of conquest, but the mastery of self. In that silence lives the rarest treasure of all, the freedom of a spirit that nothing can disturb. Chapter 2. The Teaching of Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama's search for inner peace. Siddhartha Gautama was not seeking noise, nor the applause of a throne. He left behind his kingdom, his riches, and his crown to sit beneath the Bodhi tree, in search of a peace the world could not give. Days bled into nights and nights into visions as he faced the storms of his own mind. And in that stillness, when everything else fell silent, he discovered that the deepest liberation is born not in conquest, but in silence itself. Buddha taught clarity, not reaction. The Buddha never instructed his disciples to sharpen their tongues like swords, nor to return fire with fire. His teaching was far subtler, to see clearly. For when the fog of confusion lifts, reaction is no longer necessary. Vision replaces violence, understanding dissolves hostility. In clarity, truth is revealed without the need for noise, and wisdom defeats chaos without a single blow. The bond between wisdom and detachment. At the core of Buddhist wisdom is detachment, not as emptiness, but as liberation. Detachment is the key that unlocks the chains of suffering, showing that clinging to what always changes brings only pain. By loosening the grip, life becomes lighter, and freedom is born in every step. In the release of attachment, the mind becomes steady, and clarity begins to flow like water through stone. Detachment is not absence of feeling. To detach does not mean to erase the heart. It means to stop drowning in every wave that crashes against it. Emotions still arrive: joy, grief, anger, but they pass through without holding you hostage. To detach is to stand in the current without being swept away. You feel, but you are not consumed, and that is the truest strength a human spirit can hold. Emotions as clouds in the sky. Buddha compared emotions to clouds crossing a vast sky. One does not chase them, nor attempt to grasp them, nor curse their arrival. Instead, one simply observes. The cloud comes, drifts, and fades. Anger, fear, sadness, all dissolve like vapor. And what remains constant and eternal is the clear sky itself, the unshaken essence of the mind, calm and luminous beyond all storms. Upekkha, equanimity, is a central jewel. Among the four sublime states of Buddhism, equanimity, or upekkha, is the crowning jewel. It shines beside compassion, loving kindness, and empathetic joy, yet it stands as the axis that holds them steady. Equanimity is the art of remaining centered while the world trembles, of standing firm even as chaos surrounds you. It is the golden balance that no praise or insult can disturb, the still jewel at the heart of the awakened mind. Freedom, born of detachment, not judgment. True freedom does not come from casting judgment upon others, nor from defending a fragile image. Freedom arises the moment detachment takes root. When you no longer live under the weight of others' approval or rejection, the chains fall away. You walk without the burden of their voices, their stories, their expectations. And in that release, the soul learns to breathe freely, tasting the lightness of a peace that does not depend on anyone else. Historical example: Buddha and insults. When provoked with cruel words, Buddha never struck back. He simply listened, then asked with calm clarity, "If someone offers you a gift and you refuse it, to whom does the gift belong?" And so, the insult, rejected, returned to the giver. No battle was fought, no argument won, yet the lesson thundered louder than any reply. His silence transformed offense into emptiness, and what could have been conflict became a mirror of futility. Equanimity is compassion, not coldness. Equanimity is not a frozen heart, nor a refusal to feel. It is compassion matured, compassion that does not tremble under the weight of anger. To remain unshaken is not to turn away from pain, but to refuse to multiply it. The heart remains open but steady, giving help without being consumed by the fire. In this steadiness, compassion becomes radiant, no longer fragile, but an unbreakable flame. Silence as true wisdom in action. When the world hurled words at him, Buddha answered with silence, and that silence was not weakness, it was a living sword of wisdom. It cut deeper than argument and revealed the emptiness of attack. In silence, he allowed anger to dissolve into nothing. His stillness became the teaching itself. That often the most powerful action is the choice not to act, to let wisdom speak without words. Non-reaction as protection from the ego. To not react is to deny food to the ego. The ego thrives on winning, on proving, on endlessly being right. It grows fat on conflict, desperate for validation. But when you refuse to respond, when you turn away from its games, it starves. Non-reaction is not weakness, it is mastery. It is the shield against the endless hunger of ego, the quiet refusal that becomes the highest strength. Silence as deep response to noise. In the end, silence is the most profound reply to the world's noise, not because the noise stops, but because silence rises above it. The world can shout, the crowd can accuse, but silence remains unbroken. It does not need to win, it simply is. And in that presence, stronger than sound, silence becomes the space where wisdom blooms, where peace endures, and where the soul cannot be shaken. Chapter 3, Zen Wisdom, Mastery of Non-Reaction. Zen masters teaching through silence and gestures. Zen masters often refuse to explain with endless speeches. They communicated through silence, through a raised hand, a sudden pause, or the stillness of a stare that pierced deeper than words. Their wisdom lived not in explanations, but in presence, in the air between teacher and disciple. A gesture could break illusions more sharply than 1,000 arguments. Silence was not emptiness, it was an answer alive with meaning. And in that quiet exchange, the student felt truth strike like thunder. Wisdom exists in the space between stimulus and response. Zen reveals a secret most overlook. Wisdom is born in the pause. Between the insult and the reply, between the touch of pain and the surge of anger, there is a space. That space is small, but it holds everything. In it, time stretches and choice awakens. To see the space is to see freedom waiting for you. And in that pause, what was once automatic becomes conscious. What was once reaction becomes mastery. Freedom lies in that interval. The moment you dwell in that sacred interval, chains fall away. The spear of anger stops short. The net of temptation fails to bind. The weight of judgment loses grip. Freedom is not found in shouting louder or resisting harder. It is discovered in calm clarity. This gap is the door through which sovereignty enters. It is a silence wide enough to hold the sky, yet subtle enough to fit within a breath. And there, untouched by chaos, your soul is free. Not superiority, but soul sovereignty. Non-reaction is often mistaken as superiority, as if silence were pride pretending to be wisdom. But Zen makes clear, true stillness is not arrogance, it is sovereignty. The one who does not react is not saying, I am above you, but rather, I return to myself. It is not the silence of disdain, but of self-possession. When you hold your peace, you prove nothing to others and everything to yourself. And in that stillness, the soul regains its rightful throne. Ego as illusion. Why defend what doesn't exist? The ego is a restless phantom, always demanding defense, applause, and recognition. It is a mask stitched together by memory and desire, an image constantly in need of proof. Zen asks, why defend a shadow? Why give energy to what is not real? The more you feed it, the hungrier it becomes. But when you see it as illusion, you stop bowing to it. And in letting go, the phantom dissolves, and peace returns where battle once raged. The monk's response to a slap. A villager once struck a monk across the face. The disciple beside him, outraged, cried, Master, why do you not fight back? The monk, unmoved, replied, What self is there to defend? In that one phrase, the weight of centuries of wisdom was revealed. The blow landed on skin, but could not touch the spirit. The crowd saw silence not as weakness, but as an immovable wall of dignity. And in his calm, the slap lost all meaning. True dignity in not reacting. Dignity is not born from retaliation, nor from proving you are stronger. It lives in the ability to remain calm when provoked, to refuse the invitation into chaos. The monk's silence did not diminish him. It crowned him with unshakable authority. To not react is to rise above the game entirely. In that refusal, there is greatness beyond comparison. Dignity is not the shout that wins the crowd, but the silence that defeats the storm. And in that silence, majesty is revealed. Non-reaction as energetic protection. Every reaction spends energy, draining the fire within. Anger leaks your strength, defense consumes your breath, and conflict burns your life force like dry wood. But non-reaction is a shield invisible to the eye. It keeps your essence intact, guarding what is sacred. Each moment of restraint is energy saved, turned into clarity and power. To ignore noise is not weakness, it is protection. And by conserving your flame, you prepare to light the path ahead. Calm as the highest form of power. Calm is not passivity, it is supreme power. It is the mountain unmoved by storms, the lake that mirrors the moon without distortion. To remain calm is to become vast, larger than the chaos that seeks to shake you. In calmness, presence grows and authority deepens. It is the hidden crown worn by the sovereign of the self. True power does not come from conquering others, but from mastering one's stillness. And in calm, even the storm bows. Spiritual strength, measured by equanimity. Spiritual strength is not measured by how loudly you preach, nor by how fiercely you fight. It is measured by how steady you remain when the world shakes. Equanimity is the quiet flame that refuses to flicker, even when winds howl. It is the anchor of the awakened mind, a strength unshaken by praise or blame. To remain centered is to be immovable, and in that immovability lies the essence of true power, calm and eternal. Compassion hidden within non-reaction. Non-reaction is not indifference. Hidden within it lies compassion. By not returning anger, you refuse to multiply suffering. You protect yourself, but also the other, from spirals of pain. Compassion does not always roar. It sometimes rests in silence. The heart stays open, but the mind does not follow every fire. In non-reaction, mercy is born because you choose not to continue the cycle of harm. And that is the deepest kindness. Silence as a living teaching. In Zen, silence is not the absence of speech. It is the speech of truth itself. Silence is alive. It reveals, it cuts, it heals. A master need not explain, for the quiet teaches all. In stillness, paradox becomes clarity, and questions dissolve into presence. Silence is the final teaching, a mirror where the student sees himself. And in that mirror, sovereignty is discovered. The lesson ends not in words, but in the silence that remains. Chapter 4. Zen Wisdom, Mastery and Non-Reaction. Zen School, silence as response to stimuli. In Zen, silence is not absence, it is presence, alive with meaning. When confronted with questions, accusations, or praise, the masters often gave no words at all, only stillness. Their silence became a mirror, reflecting truth more clearly than speech ever could. It was an answer beyond logic, a lesson that pierced directly into awareness. Silence was the highest response, the proof that wisdom needs no defense. In a noisy world, silence stood like a mountain, immovable and eternal. Zen masters replying with gestures, not words. Zen stories are filled with teachers who taught through action instead of explanation. A master lifting one finger, drawing a line in the sand, or striking the floor with his staff became the entire lesson. These gestures were not random, they were lightning bolts that shattered illusion. They forced disciples out of thought into direct seeing. In gestures, the ineffable was revealed, bypassing words. Through such simplicity, Zen taught that the body could speak a language deeper than the tongue. The space between stimulus and reaction. Zen wisdom reveals that freedom lives in a space most ignore, the interval between stimulus and response. That pause may last a breath, yet inside it lies infinity. In the stillness before reaction, awareness awakens and the chain of impulse is broken. You are no longer dragged into anger or fear. You are free to choose. This is where sovereignty begins, in the decision not to be ruled by habit. The gap is small, but it contains the whole universe of freedom. Wisdom not in answers, but in silence. The highest wisdom is not found in arguments or explanations, but in silence itself. Words can entangle, but silence clarifies. It strips away illusion until only truth remains. Zen insists that the greatest truths are not spoken, but directly experienced. Silence is the teacher that never deceives, because it leaves nothing hidden. To sit in silence is to sit in truth. It is there that mind clears like a still lake, and wisdom shines unclouded like the moon. Ignoring with wisdom as soul sovereignty. Ignoring does not mean superiority, nor is it contempt. In Zen, ignoring with wisdom is returning to yourself, choosing not to scatter your essence on the meaningless. It is an act of sovereignty, the refusal to be enslaved by provocation. When you turn away from chaos, you turn back to your center, and in that center lies the throne of your true self. This sovereignty is not over others. It is mastery of your own energy, a crown invisible yet unshakable. Ego and illusion, ignoring what feeds it. The ego thrives on noise. It feeds on every argument, every defense, every attempt to prove I am right. But Zen unmasks the ego as illusion, a mask stitched from memory and thought. Why spend energy defending what is not real? Each reaction only feeds the phantom and drains the soul. When you see through it, the need to react disappears. By refusing to nourish the illusion, you starve it into silence. And in that silence, peace blossoms naturally. The self that does not exist. Zen masters often shock disciples with a single truth. The self you defend does not exist. When insulted, they asked, "Who is there to be hurt?" Ego is a shadow, and shadows vanish when the light of awareness shines. To fight for a shadow is madness. To release it is liberation. When you no longer cling to the phantom self, no wound can touch you. In that realization, serenity blooms. The one who sees the illusion becomes untouchable. Non-reaction is energetic protection. Every reaction is a leak of power. Anger bleeds it, defense burns it, and conflict consumes it. But non-reaction preserves it, sealing your energy within like a sacred vessel. It is not surrender, it is protection. To ignore consciously is to defend your inner temple against waste. This shield is invisible but stronger than steel. The Zen master and the slapper villager once struck a Zen master, and his disciple demanded, "Why do you not fight back?" The master replied, "What self is there to defend?" In that calm, the slap lost all meaning. It ended with the skin but could not touch the spirit. His silence thundered louder than retaliation, turning violence into emptiness. The crowd saw dignity, not weakness, in his restraint. In stillness, he showed that true strength does not need to strike. It simply stands. Ignoring as deep self-love. To ignore with awareness is not rejection. It is love for the self. It is saying, "My peace is more valuable than your chaos." Ignoring is not a wall, but a shield forged in compassion for your own spirit. It is refusing to let external noise disturb your inner flame. In silence, self-love shines as a quiet strength. To protect your peace is to honor your soul. Ignoring is not coldness, it is an intimate act of preservation. Spiritual strength in calm during chaos. True spiritual strength is revealed not in temples or chants, but in the chaos of life. Anyone can be calm when skies are clear, but the awakened remain calm even as storms rage. Equanimity is the flame that does not flicker in the wind. To stand firm when the world shakes is to hold a crown no one can see. Calmness is the true proof of mastery, a fortress stronger than walls. In chaos, calm is the highest power. Ego as root of suffering, peace as freedom. The Buddha and the Zen masters revealed, ego is the root of suffering. Every argument, every wound, every chain is born from its illusion. But when the ego is ignored, its power fades and peace takes its place. And peace is the deepest freedom, beyond conquest, beyond approval, beyond fear. Peace is sovereignty of the soul, unshakable and eternal. In peace, you are free not because the world changes, but because you are no longer bound to it. Chapter 5, Practical Wisdom, 5 Essential Practices. Silence as sacred choice. Every moment offers a decision to lash out in impulse or to pause with awareness. In that pause, silence becomes a sacred act, a choice to protect your soul. It is the refusal to let chaos dictate your behavior or steal your peace. A single breath can transform rage into clarity, fear into focus. Silence is not emptiness, but fullness, a presence overflowing with power. It is the fertile ground where wisdom is born, and in silence, the noise of the world loses its grip. Guard your energy. Not every battle deserves your fire. Not every provocation requires a response. Some conflicts are traps meant only to drain your spirit until nothing remains. Guarding your energy is not weakness. It is sovereignty, the discipline of valuing your essence. Every no to drama is a yes to peace. Each refusal to fight is fuel saved for creation. Your energy is sacred currency. Spend it only on what builds you. Protecting your flame is the foundation of freedom, and freedom begins in self-protection. Observation as practice. Observation is the mirror of mastery, the art of seeing without drowning. When a trigger appears, do not react. Watch. See what rises within you as clearly as clouds drifting across a vast sky. Each irritation reflects your wounds. Each provocation is a hidden teacher. Observation does not numb, it enlightens. To watch anger without feeding it is to dissolve its power. In awareness, you transform pain into insight, and in insight, the world becomes a classroom instead of a battlefield. Strengthen your spiritual axis. A tree without roots falls with the first storm. A soul without its sacred axis is toppled by the smallest gust. Strengthening your axis means anchoring yourself in the eternal: prayer, meditation, contemplation, or communion with nature. These practices tether you to what does not move. When storms rise, your roots hold you firm. The world can shake, but you remain centered. Alignment with the sacred transforms fragility into resilience. And resilience becomes a shield stronger than any defense. Ignorance as protection. Ignorance is not weakness. In Zen, it is wisdom disguised as simplicity. To turn away from chaos is to protect your inner sanctuary from poison. Not every voice deserves an answer. Not every storm deserves your presence. To ignore with clarity is to build walls made of peace. What you refuse to feed cannot grow. Ignorance is not closing your eyes, but choosing what not to see. It is a shield forged in serenity, and serenity is the mightiest defense. Silence as fertile ground for response. Silence is not empty. It is alive, a soil of infinite potential. In silence, seeds of conscious response take root. What emerges from silence carries weight, depth, and precision. Words born of noise are brittle. Words born of silence shape destiny. The pause before reaction is not delay. It is cultivation. You are not withholding, you are planting. Silence turns chaos into clarity, and clarity into strength. To pause before answering is to sow wisdom where weeds once grew. Energy leaks through conflict. Conflict is costly, far more than we admit. Every unnecessary argument tears small wounds in the spirit. Energy escapes like water from a cracked vessel, leaving you weaker with each battle. Yet refusal to fight keeps you whole. To remain still is not surrender, but preservation of power. Each conflict avoided is strength retained. Each silence kept is clarity multiplied. Energy conserved becomes energy transmuted. And in transmutation, the soul gathers force that chaos cannot steal. Compassionate boundaries. Boundaries are not born from hate, but from love. Love for yourself and love for peace. Saying no is not cruelty, it is clarity. To draw a line is to declare what your soul can hold and what it cannot. A clear boundary is a wall of serenity protecting your inner garden. When you enforce it without anger, you teach respect. Compassion shines brightest when it protects the sacred. Boundaries create harmony, and in harmony, both love and respect grow. Daily stillness as training. Stillness is not a gift that arrives fully formed, it is training. Each day, practice silence, even for a few minutes, and watch the waves of the mind. This daily ritual sharpens the spirit like a blade against stone. Stillness is discipline that prepares you for storms. In silence, distractions dissolve and resilience grows. What begins as minutes becomes strength for years. Daily silence is daily armor, a preparation for the battlefield of noise, and practice transforms silence into strength. Choosing presence over impulsivity. Life unfolds at crossroads. One path leads to impulse, the other to presence. Impulsivity blinds, but presence reveals. When you choose presence, you refuse to be dragged by reaction. You stand awake while others sleep in habit. Presence is the seat of freedom because it makes you sovereign over choice. To live present is to live awake, to meet life with open eyes. Impulse enslaves, presence liberates. And in liberation, destiny reshapes itself with every step. Ignoring noise to hear the true self, the world screams endlessly, each voice demanding your attention. But beneath the roar lies a whisper, the true self. To hear it, you must ignore the static. Silence peels away the layers of opinion and fear, revealing a voice older than chaos. Ignoring the noise is not escape, it is return. Return to the essence that cannot be shaken. Return to the truth that has always been there. In ignoring, you find yourself, and in yourself, you find peace. Ignoring becomes not defense, but art. At the end of the path, ignoring is no longer mere defense. It becomes art. The art of discernment, of walking past chaos with serenity intact. Ignoring wisely is the crown of mastery. It is the declaration that you will not be enslaved by noise. It is not withdrawal, but creation of space for what matters. Ignoring is art because it sculpts peace out of storms. In that art, silence becomes beauty, and in beauty, the soul becomes sovereign. In the end, silence reveals itself not as weakness, but as the highest form of mastery. It is the ground where clarity grows and the shield that protects peace. Through silence, the soul learns what noise could never teach. And in silence, we discover freedom. The art of ignoring is not abandonment, it is discernment. To walk past chaos is to guard the sacred fire within. It is choosing sovereignty of the soul over the slavery of reaction. Ignoring becomes a declaration of love for peace. Every pause, every breath, every refusal to engage in chaos builds a temple of serenity. This temple is not made of stone, but of awareness, compassion, and presence. Within its walls, storms may roar, but they cannot reach the center. There, true strength is born. So let this teaching stay with you. Not everything demands your voice. Not every battle deserves your energy. Silence is not escape. It is power. To ignore with wisdom is to create space for the true self. And in that space, peace becomes eternal. If this message has touched something within you, stay with us on this journey of wisdom and silence. Subscribe to the channel, activate the bell so you never miss a teaching, and give this video a like so more seekers can find it. Together, let us spread the quiet power that transforms lives.